Write this down. June 4th, 2026. Because 11 days before anyone reported Elena Moore missing, a doorbell camera half a mile from her gym recorded the first 10 seconds of a mystery that a full forensic autopsy still cannot explain. A 39-year-old fitness trainer, sharp, high energy, the kind of woman who ran a gym floor, not the kind of woman who got lost in her own neighborhood, picked up a stranger's food delivery like it was hers, tried to walk into a home she had never set foot in. And when a neighbor stopped her outside a completely different apartment an hour later, holding someone else's packages, and asked her what on earth she was doing, Elena Moore didn't lie. She didn't make an excuse. She looked at this stranger and said 4 words that investigators still cannot explain. I have no idea. 1 week later, she's gone. 6 days after that, they find her body less than a mile from where she was last seen alive. And here is the detail that should genuinely disturb you. A full forensic autopsy at one of the top medical universities in the state found nothing. No bruising, no broken bones, no gunshot wound, no stab wound, no strangulation marks, not one sign that another human being ever touched her. A forensic criminologist who has been following this case put it bluntly on national television. When a body shows zero external trauma, investigators are forced to become what she called medical detectives, reading bug activity, plant growth, even the fluid inside the eyes because the body itself has gone silent. And this isn't the only warning sign nobody caught in time. 11 days before that Ring camera incident, 22 days before her body was found, Elena hugged her best friend of over a decade at a Sunday brunch and said this: "I'm scared for my life." 2 unexplained collapses. 22 days apart. A woman who told someone directly that she was afraid. And a state crime lab that, right now, as you are watching this, still has not sent back the one envelope that could tell her family what actually happened. This is the case of Elena Moore. We are not going to give you rumors. We are not going to give you TikTok theories. We're going to give you every confirmed fact in order from the people who are actually there, because when you lay it out straight, this case does not need a single exaggeration to be terrifying. If you want cases broken down fact by fact, no fluff, no fake drama, hit subscribe right now because this story is still moving and we will be here the second it does. Let's start where the confirmed timeline starts. Elena Catherine Moore was 39 years old, a personal trainer at Wolf's Fitness Center in Lexington, South Carolina, a suburb just outside Columbia. Every account from people who knew her describes the same person: encouraging, high energy, someone who showed up for her clients. On the morning of June 11th, 2026, Elena was discharged from Three Rivers Behavioral Health, a mental health treatment facility in West Columbia. She had been a voluntary patient, meaning she checked herself in and she retained the right to leave whenever she chose. That distinction matters. Nothing about her stay there suggests she was held against her will. The facility arranged a cab for her. According to the police timeline, that cab stopped at a CVS pharmacy on Sunset Boulevard, at Elena's request. When the driver went inside to find her, she was already gone. She had walked off on her own, under her own direction. What happened in the hours after that is not on any camera that has been made public. There's a real, documented gap in her day. Then, at around 6:40 that evening, her gym membership was scanned at Planet Fitness on Whiteford Way, the same gym she worked at. She didn't work out. She checked in and she took a shower. She left sometime between 8:30 and 9 p.m., and cameras picked her up walking through a nearby Publix parking lot around 9:17 p.m., wearing an olive green zip-up hoodie and black athletic pants. She was heading toward a wooded area behind a nearby Lowe's. That is the last confirmed footage of Elena Moore alive. Here's the part that most coverage rushes past, and it might be the most important 7 days in this entire case. 1 week before she disappeared, on June 4th, a Ring doorbell camera at an apartment complex roughly half a mile from that same Planet Fitness recorded something strange. A DoorDash order arrived. Before the resident, a man named John Moore, no relation, could get to the door, Elena picked up the delivery bag. Not hesitantly. She picked it up like she believed it was hers. When John opened the door and took the food from her, Elena reportedly began to follow him inside, into a home she had never been in, toward a man she had never met. In his own words, She seemed confused and disoriented about where she was or what she was doing. About an hour later, a neighbor in the same building, Sarah Burleson, spotted Elena again, this time going through a stack of packages at a completely different apartment door. When Burleson asked her what she was doing, Elena's answer was simple. "I have no idea." Not evasive. Not defensive. Just honest confusion. Burleson has said publicly that what she saw has stuck with her ever since, and that it's raised a question she can't shake. If Elena was that disoriented a full week before she vanished, was she in some version of that same state on the night she actually walked into the woods and never came back? This wasn't just a neighbor's story that got exaggerated online, either. Lexington Police Inspector Missy Silcox has publicly confirmed that Elena was seen on that camera appearing disoriented in the week before she disappeared. Law enforcement, independently, used similar language to describe what they saw. So somewhere in that week, after, by all accounts, a decade with no documented episodes like this, something happened to Elena Moore that neither she, nor the people around her, could explain in the moment. And, as you'll see in a minute, nobody has been able to explain it since. 11 days before she disappeared, on May 31st, Elena went to a brunch with a group of friends, including her closest friend of over 10 years, Sandra Campbell. Campbell has since described that day publicly, on the record, in interviews with News Nation and Fox News Digital. According to her account, Elena wasn't herself. She kept getting up to look out the window. She walked to the door and looked outside more than once. As the brunch was ending, Campbell said Elena hugged her tightly and told her, in front of the group, that she couldn't talk right now, but that she needed to talk to her one-on-one. And then, according to Campbell, Elena said this: "I'm scared for my life." Campbell has said publicly that she believes foul play was involved in Elena's death. She's also spoken about documented strain in Elena's marriage to her husband, Brandon Slice, describing periods where the couple had discussed separating. It's important to be precise here, because this is where a lot of online coverage gets sloppy. Brandon Slice has not been named a suspect or a person of interest at any point in this investigation. Law enforcement has said this clearly, more than once. He was the one who reported Elena missing, and investigators have repeatedly stated they have no reason at this time to believe foul play was involved. A private investigator who worked the case during the search, Henry Dukes, has publicly pushed back on the idea that the marriage was in crisis, saying he wasn't aware of any problems and that friends generally described the relationship as fine. Campbell has publicly disputed Dukes' account in return. Two people close to this case, looking at the same set of facts, have landed in different places. Neither version has been confirmed by investigators. That contradiction is part of the record, and it's one of the reasons this case has held so much public attention. Elena was reported missing on June 12th, the morning after she was last seen. What followed was a 6-day search involving the Lexington Police Department, drone units, K-9 teams, and eventually the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, SLED, the state's major crimes unit. Police were careful with their language throughout. Lexington Police Chief Terrence Green described the search of the wooded area as an effort to rule out one less place she could be, not a recovery operation. Chief Green has also said publicly that ongoing media coverage of Elena's case was part of what generated the tip that eventually led investigators to her. On June 16th, a community member called in that exact tip. They'd seen Elena entering the wooded area near Lakeside Middle School on the night of June 11th. The next afternoon, June 17th, at 2:48 p.m., a body was found in that area, roughly 1.5 miles from the Publix and nearly 2 miles from the gym, wearing clothing matching what Elena had been seen in. The Lexington County Coroner's Office formally identified her as Elena Catherine Moore 2 days later, on June 19th. This is the part of the case that turned it from a tragedy into a genuine, ongoing mystery. On June 20th, 2026, Lexington County Coroner Margaret Fisher conducted a full forensic autopsy at the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston. 2 days later, she released her preliminary findings, and they were specific. No evidence of traumatic injury. No bruising. No lacerations. No gunshot wounds. No stab wounds. No blunt force trauma. No strangulation. No external injuries of any kind. The cause of death was and still is, as of the most recent update, pending. In an exclusive interview with WIS News on July 1st, Coroner Fisher explained exactly why this takes so long, calling it a process with steps you cannot rush or skip, because a full autopsy means examining both the outside of the body and, internally, the histology, the microscopic tissue studies, and the toxicology, none of which move quickly. She also described what it means to investigate a healthy adult who dies with no visible trauma. It turns her office into what amounts to a team of medical detectives, weighing everything from the clothing Elena was wearing to the temperature that week to whether she had any undiagnosed heart or kidney issues, even flagging dehydration as a cause of death that people rarely think to consider. Fisher has acknowledged the case has drawn national attention and said her office remains in constant contact with Elena's family while the results are pending. She isn't the only forensic expert weighing in publicly. Forensic criminologist Dr. Laura Petler discussed the case on the true crime program Drop Dead Serious, explaining that in cases with no external trauma, investigators have to lean on evidence most people never think about: insect activity, plant growth around a body, and even the fluid inside a victim's eyes, which can sometimes hold the first clue to a chemical exposure or an overdose long after other evidence has degraded. 3 things are running in parallel right now. Studies, microscopic examination of tissue from her heart, liver, brain, and lungs, looking for cellular-level damage that a visual autopsy can't catch. A full medical records review, establishing whether Elena had any documented heart condition, prior cardiac events, or anything in her history that could explain what happened. None of these have been publicly completed. No official has used the word poisoning. No official has confirmed a cardiac cause. Nothing has ruled out a neurological event either. A seizure or stroke can produce exactly the kind of sudden, hour-long disorientation that was caught on that Ring camera and can leave a body with zero external trauma, same as a cardiac or toxic cause would. That's the honest, complicated truth of where this case stands. 3 real medical possibilities are still on the table, and the only tests that can tell them apart haven't come back yet. As of the first week of July 2026, nearly a month after Elena disappeared, the Lexington County Coroner's Office has said it will release no further information until every pending study is complete and a pathologist can formally determine both the cause and manner of death. Coroner Fisher has said publicly that final results in cases like this can realistically take several weeks, sometimes months. SLED is continuing to lead the death investigation. Brandon Slice remains, officially, not a suspect and not a person of interest. Sandra Campbell continues to speak publicly, maintaining her belief that something external was at play. Local outlets covering the South Carolina crime beat, including FITS News, have confirmed they're continuing to track the case and are waiting on the same full toxicology results as everyone else. And a community that watched this search unfold day by day is still waiting for the same envelope everyone else is waiting for. What we know for certain: a woman with no documented history of this kind of episode had a sudden, severe, unexplained break from her own awareness, witnessed independently by 2 strangers and acknowledged by police, exactly 1 week before she died. And a full forensic autopsy found nothing on the outside of her body that explains how she died. Those 2 facts sitting next to each other are the whole reason this case is still open. We are not going to sit here and tell you Elena Moore was poisoned. No coroner has said that. We're not going to tell you her husband did something, because police have said clearly, more than once, that he hasn't been named a suspect. What we can tell you is exactly what's confirmed, and let that speak for itself, because, honestly, it doesn't need any help. If new information drops on this case, and it will because the coroner's office has said results are coming, we will be the first ones breaking it down for you. Fact by fact, no fluff. If you want to be here when that happens, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop a comment below. What do you think that toxicology report is going to say? We read every single one. This is Untold Crime Diaries. We'll see you in the next one.